David sat alone in his small apartment, staring at his computer screen. The clock showed 2:30 a.m., but sleep felt impossible. Empty pizza boxes covered his coffee table, and the blue light from his monitor was the only thing lighting up the room. He worked nights fixing computer problems for people who called in angry and frustrated. It wasn't his dream job, but it paid the bills. His phone buzzed with a notification. Another social media update from his college friends showing their perfect lives. Wedding photos, baby pictures, vacation trips to places he could never afford. David quickly closed the app and grabbed a beer from his fridge. The cold bottle felt good in his hands as he sat back down at his desk. That's when the email popped up. Looking for love across the stars? Find your perfect match today. David almost deleted it right away. He got these spam emails all the time, but something about this one was different. Maybe it was the weird purple background or the strange symbols scattered around the text. The website link looked legitimate enough, so he clicked it out of curiosity. The page that loaded was unlike anything he'd seen before. It looked like a dating website, but everything seemed slightly off. The photos showed women with unusual features. Some had eyes that seemed to sparkle, others had hair that looked like it was moving even in still pictures. The names were strange, too. Lyra from the Crystal Valleys, Nova of the Silver Rings, Celestia from the Moonlit Shores. David scrolled through the profiles, amused by what he thought were creative stage names and photo filters. The descriptions were written in broken English, which made him think it was some kind of international dating service. Maybe these were actresses from other countries trying to meet American men. One profile caught his attention. The woman's name was Zara, and her photo showed someone incredibly beautiful with bright green eyes that seemed to change color as he looked at them. Her description read, "Seeking friendship and cultural exchange with Earth Dweller. Excellent. At managing household tasks, speaks many languages, enjoys learning new customs, very adaptable to different environments." The price was listed as $2,199, which seemed expensive for a dating service membership, but David had been saving money from his night job. He'd been feeling lonely for months, especially after his last girlfriend left him for someone with a better career. Maybe it was time to try something new. The beer was making him feel bolder than usual. David clicked on Zara's profile and read through all the details. She seemed perfect, intelligent, beautiful, and interested in learning about American culture. The website claimed she was currently living in a remote location and looking for someone to help her relocate. Before he could change his mind, David filled out the order form. He entered his credit card information, his address, and even answered a questionnaire about his preferences and lifestyle. The whole process felt more detailed than a typical dating site, but he figured that meant they were thorough about matching people. The confirmation page appeared with a message in multiple languages. Most of it was in English, but there were sections in scripts he didn't recognize. The main message read, "Order confirmed. Your companion selection has been processed. Delivery arrangements will be made within 3 to 5 business days. Please ensure your location is prepared for arrival." David felt a wave of regret wash over him. What had he just done? He'd spent almost $3,000 on what might be a complete scam. He tried to find a customer service number to cancel, but all the contact information seemed to be international numbers with country codes he didn't recognize. The next morning, David woke up with a headache and a sense of dread. He checked his email and found dozens of new messages. Official-looking documents filled his inbox with titles like Interplanetary Transport Manifest and Customs Documentation for Sentient Cargo. Most of the emails were in multiple languages, and even the English parts were hard to understand. One email had the subject line, "Important. Prepare your dwelling for arrival." It contained a list of instructions about air quality, temperature settings, and something about atmospheric adaptation protocols. David assumed it was all marketing nonsense designed to make their service seem more exotic and exclusive. He called in sick to work and spent the day trying to figure out how to cancel his order. Every phone number he tried either didn't work, or connected him to people with thick accents who claimed they couldn't help him. The live chat feature on the website was even stranger. The customer service representatives had names like Zortok the Helper and Vega from Support Division. By afternoon, David received a call that made his blood run cold. A serious-sounding woman identified herself as Agent Rodriguez from the Department of Homeland Security. She asked if he had recently made a purchase involving extraterrestrial commerce and whether he had the proper documentation for hosting a foreign visitor of non-terrestrial origin. David tried to explain that he thought he was signing up for a dating service, but Agent Rodriguez seemed to take everything very seriously. She informed him that his transaction had been flagged by multiple government agencies and that he would need to complete additional paperwork before any delivery could take place. "Delivery of what?" David asked, his voice shaking. "Sir, according to our records, you've purchased a living being from the Andromeda Commerce Network. This falls under several international treaties and requires special permits." David hung up the phone, convinced this was all some elaborate prank or scam. But the emails kept coming. Shipping notifications, customs forms, and something called a biological import license that required his signature. The worst part was that his credit card company confirmed the charge was legitimate. They couldn't reverse it because the transaction had been processed through something called the Galactic Trade Authority, which apparently had some kind of special status that prevented normal chargebacks. As evening approached, David paced around his apartment, trying to figure out what to do. He'd Googled everything he could think of, but found no information about the website he'd used or the company behind it. It was like they existed in some parallel internet that only he could access. His doorbell rang at exactly 7 p.m. Through his peephole, David saw two men in dark suits standing in the hallway. They looked like government agents from a movie, complete, with sunglasses and serious expressions. One of them held a tablet, while the other carried what looked like a large metallic briefcase. "Mr. David Thompson," one of them called through the door. "We're here about your recent purchase. We need to discuss the arrival procedures." David's hands trembled as he unlocked the door. This was really happening. Whatever he had bought, whoever Zara was, she was actually coming to his apartment. His simple life as a tech support worker was about to become something he never could have imagined. The agents stepped into his small apartment and looked around with professional interest. They made notes on their tablets and asked questions about his living space, his work schedule, and whether he had any experience with interspecies communication. "There's been a mistake," David said, for what felt like the 100th time that day. "I thought I was signing up for a dating website." The agents exchanged glances. One of them smiled slightly and said, "Sir, that's exactly what you did. The issue is that this particular dating website operates on a galactic scale. Your order has been processed and the subject is already in transit. She'll be here tomorrow morning." David sank into his couch, realizing that his accidental click had set in motion events he couldn't control or understand. Whatever happened next, his quiet, lonely life was about to change forever. David barely slept that night. Every sound in the hallway made him jump, thinking someone was coming to deliver whatever he had accidentally ordered. He kept checking his phone for updates, but the emails had stopped coming. The silence felt worse than the flood of confusing messages. At exactly 9 a.m., his doorbell rang 3 times in a pattern. David looked through the peephole and saw something that made his heart stop. 3 tall figures in silver suits stood outside his door, carrying what looked like a large metal container between them. They wore helmets with dark visors, and their movement seemed too smooth, too coordinated to be normal. "David Thompson," one of them said in a voice that sounded like it was coming through a speaker. "We have your delivery from the Galactic Commerce Network. Please prepare to receive your order." David's hands shook as he opened the door. Up close, the delivery crew looked even stranger. They were definitely not human, though they were trying to appear professional and normal. Their suits had small, blinking lights, and he could hear a faint humming sound coming from their equipment. "There's been a mistake," David said quickly. "I didn't mean to order anything. I thought it was just a dating website." The tallest figure consulted a glowing tablet. "Order number GCN 47291, placed by David Thompson, Earth address confirmed. Payment processed through the Interplanetary E. Commerce Authority, no cancellation request received within the standard time period." "But I tried to cancel," David protested. "I called and emailed, but nobody would help me." "All sales are final once transport begins," another figure explained. "Patiently. The subject has traveled 4.7 million miles to reach this location. Cancellation at this point would violate multiple trade agreements." They moved the metal container into David's living room despite his continued protests. The container was about the size of a refrigerator and had no visible seams or openings. Soft blue lights pulsed along its edges, and it made a gentle humming sound. "What's in there?" David asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "Your companion, as ordered. Female, adult, species designation Andromedian 7. She has been in suspended transport for optimal preservation during the journey." The leader pressed several buttons on a small device. "Awakening process will begin now. Please step back." Wait, David said, panic rising in his voice. "You're telling me there's actually a person in there? A real person?" "Affirmative. High-quality companion, rated excellent in compatibility assessments. She has been briefed on Earth customs and your personal preferences based on your questionnaire responses." The container began to glow brighter, and steam started hissing from hidden vents. David watched in amazement and terror as the front panel slowly became transparent, revealing the figure inside. She was the most beautiful woman David had ever seen, but something about her was clearly not from Earth. Her skin had a slight shimmer to it, and her hair seemed to move on its own, even though there was no wind. She wore a fitted silver outfit that looked like it was made from the same material as the delivery crew's suits. "Opening sequence complete," the leader announced. "Please sign here to confirm delivery." "I'm not signing anything until I understand." "What's happening?" David said, backing away from the container. That's when her eyes opened. They were the same bright green he'd seen in the profile picture, but in person, they seemed to glow with their own light. She looked around slowly, taking in her surroundings, before focusing on David. When she smiled, it was like the sun coming up. She said something in a musical language that David had never heard before. Then a small device on her collar blinked, and she spoke again in perfect English. "Hello, David. I am Zara of the Andromedian colonies. I am very pleased to meet you." Her voice was warm and melodic, with just a hint of an accent that sounded like nothing from Earth. She stepped out of the container gracefully, moving like a dancer. David noticed that her feet didn't quite seem to touch the ground. "This is impossible," David whispered. "This can't be real." Zara tilted her head, studying him with curious eyes. "You seem distressed. Did I not meet your selection criteria?" The compatibility assessment indicated a 94% match probability. The delivery crew was packing up their equipment, apparently satisfied that their job was done. "Delivery complete," the leader said. "Standard warranty applies. If you experience any technical difficulties, contact customer service through the usual channels." "Technical difficulties?" David asked. "She's a person, not a machine. All companions are living beings," the leader replied matter-of-factly. "However, they are trained for optimal performance in their assigned roles. Your Zara model specializes in domestic management and cultural adaptation." "Model?" Zara looked confused. "I am not a model. I am a volunteer from the outer colonies, seeking opportunities for cultural exchange and family support." The delivery crew exchanged glances. "Standard explanation protocols engaged," one of them muttered. They quickly finished packing and headed for the door. "Wait," David called after them. "What am I supposed to do now? How does this work? All information is in the user manual." the leader called back. "Welcome to galactic commerce, Earth citizen." And then they were gone, leaving David alone with Zara and 1,000 questions. Zara looked around his small apartment with fascination. She touched his couch, his coffee table, and his television remote with the wonder of someone seeing these things for the first time. "Your dwelling is smaller than expected," she said politely, "but it has a pleasant energy pattern. The electromagnetic field suggests you spend much time with electronic devices." "You can sense electromagnetic fields?" David asked weakly. "Of course. Cannot all Earth humans do this?" She looked genuinely surprised. "How do you navigate your technology without sensing its energy signatures?" David sat down hard on his couch, trying to process everything that was happening. "Zara, I need to explain something. I didn't actually mean to order you. It was an accident. I thought I was signing up for a regular dating website." Zara's expression grew serious. "You did not choose me specifically? I mean, I chose your profile, but I didn't understand what I was really doing. I'm so sorry. This must be terrible for you." To his surprise, Zara smiled again. "Not terrible at all. I volunteered for this program to help my family and to learn about Earth culture. Whether you chose me by accident or on purpose, I am here now, and I am committed to making this arrangement successful." She moved closer and sat on the edge of the coffee table, facing him. "Tell me about yourself, David. What do you enjoy? What are your customs? I have studied Earth culture, but I would like to learn from direct experience." David looked into her glowing green eyes and felt his panic slowly being replaced by curiosity. "You really came here by choice?" "Yes. My planet has limited opportunities, especially for someone like me. This program offers a chance for adventure and the ability to send money back to my family. I was hoping to find someone kind and interesting to share experiences with." "And you're not upset that I ordered you by accident?" Zara laughed, and it sounded like wind chimes. "Perhaps the best discoveries are the ones we do not plan. On my world, we believe that the universe has a way of bringing people together when they need each other most." David felt some of his tension fade away. "Well, I definitely need someone right now. My life has been pretty lonely lately." "Then perhaps this accident was actually good fortune for both of us," Zara said with a warm smile. "Now, shall we begin learning about each other? I am very curious about Earth food. The transport nutrition was quite bland." As David got up to show her his kitchen, he couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, this crazy situation might work out after all. The first week with Zara was like living in a dream that David couldn't wake up from. Every morning he expected to find his apartment empty, but there she was, usually floating 3 inches off the ground while she meditated. She explained that it helped her stay connected to the energy fields of her home planet. "Does it hurt when you do that?" David asked on their 3rd day together, watching her hover above his couch. "Hurt? No, it feels wonderful, like swimming in warm light." She opened her glowing green eyes and smiled at him. "Would you like me to teach you?" David tried for 20 minutes but couldn't even get his toes off the ground. Zara found this hilarious, her laughter filling the apartment like music. "Perhaps Earth humans are more connected to the ground," she said kindly. "This is not a bad thing. Different species have different gifts." The biggest challenge was food. Zara's attempt at cooking nearly set off the smoke alarm. She'd tried to make what she called comfort food from home, using ingredients from David's kitchen. The result was something that glowed purple and tasted like a mixture of mint and metal. "On my planet, we add energy directly to our food," she explained, looking embarrassed as David opened all the windows to clear the strange smell. "I forgot that Earth food does not respond well to energy infusion." David ordered pizza instead, and watched in amazement as Zara experienced her first slice. She closed her eyes and made a sound of pure joy that made him smile despite the chaos in his kitchen. "This is incredible," she said. The combination of flavors, the way it changes temperature as you eat it. Earth food is so complex. Going outside. Together proved to be even more complicated. Zara had studied human behavior, but actually blending in was harder than she expected. She walked too gracefully. Her hair moved in ways that didn't match the wind, and she kept trying to help people in ways that revealed her abilities. On their first trip to the grocery store, she accidentally healed an elderly man's arthritis, just by shaking his hand. David watched in panic as the man flexed his fingers in amazement, clearly confused about why his pain had suddenly disappeared. "You can't do that in public," David whispered as they hurried away. "But he was suffering," Zara replied, genuinely confused. "Why would I not help when I have the ability?" "Because people will ask questions we can't answer. They'll want to study you, or worse." Zara nodded slowly, but David could see how difficult it was for her to ignore people's pain. Her compassionate nature was one of the things he was starting to love about her, even though it made their situation more complicated. His co-worker Jake became suspicious after just a few days. David had called in sick to help Zara adjust, but when he returned to work, Jake noticed immediate changes. "You look different," Jake said during their lunch break. "Happier. Did you meet someone?" David tried to brush off the questions, but Jake was persistent. "Come on, man. You've been miserable for months and now you're practically glowing." "Who is she?" "Just someone I met online," David said, which was technically true. "Bring her to the office party next week," Jake suggested. "I'd love to meet the woman who put that smile on your face." The thought of bringing Zara to an office party filled David with terror. How could he explain her unusual mannerisms, her way of knowing things she shouldn't know, or the fact that she sometimes accidentally made electronics work better just by being near them? At home, Zara was transforming his life in ways he hadn't expected. She organized his apartment using principles that made no logical sense but somehow worked perfectly. She could fix his computer problems with a touch, and his plants had started growing at an incredible rate since her arrival. "Your technology is quite primitive," she said one evening while effortlessly repairing his laptop. "But it has a charming simplicity. Everything is so direct and honest." "You think our technology is primitive?" David asked. "Not primitive in a bad way," she clarified quickly. "More like young, full of potential. On my world, technology has become so advanced that it lacks personality. Your devices have character." She showed him what she meant by connecting her translator device to his laptop. Suddenly, his computer could access information from across the galaxy, though most of it was in languages he couldn't read. "This is incredible," David said, scrolling through what appeared to be news from distant planets. "But also terrifying. If people knew this was possible, they would want to control it," Zara finished sadly. "This is why I must be careful. My people learned long ago that sharing advanced technology too quickly can cause more harm than good." Their evening conversations became David's favorite part of each day. Zara would tell him stories about her home planet, with its 3 moons and cities that floated among the clouds. In return, David shared his childhood memories, his dreams, and his fears about the future. "You worry too much about things you cannot control," Zara observed one night as they sat on his couch watching the stars through his window. "On my world, we believe that worrying about tomorrow steals joy from today." "Easy for you to say," David replied. "You can float and heal people and fix broken things with your mind. I'm just a regular guy who fixes computers for angry customers." Zara turned to face him, her eyes serious. "David, you took a complete stranger into your home when you could have turned me away. You've been patient with my mistakes and kind about my differences. You've shown me more genuine care in 1 week than I received in years on my home planet. These are not the actions of just a regular guy." David felt his cheeks warm at her words. Over the past week, he'd found himself looking forward to her, enjoying their conversations and feeling protective of her when she seemed overwhelmed by Earth customs. "I've been thinking," he said carefully. About your situation. The legal stuff, I mean. What happens if the government finds out about you? Zara's expression grew troubled. I have been wondering the same thing. The delivery crew mentioned that my presence here falls under various treaties, but I do not fully understand Earth laws. Maybe we should figure that out, David suggested, before someone else does. As if summoned by his words, there was a knock at the door. David and Zara froze, looking at each other with wide eyes. It was almost midnight. Who would be visiting? At this hour? Through the peephole, David saw Agent Rodriguez, the woman who had called him about his extraterrestrial commerce purchase. She wasn't alone. Two other people in dark suits stood behind her, and they looked very serious. David Thompson, Agent Rodriguez called through the door. We need to talk. It's about your house guest. David looked back at Zara, who had gone pale. Her hair was shifting from its normal dark color to a silvery shade that meant she was scared. What do we do? She whispered. David took her hand, surprised by how natural the gesture felt. We face this together, he said, hoping he sounded more confident than he felt. As he reached for the door handle, David realized that his quiet life was truly over. Whatever happened next would determine not just his future, but Zara's as well. David's heart pounded as he opened the door. Agent Rodriguez stood there with two other officials, all of them looking serious and professional. Behind them, he could see black SUVs parked on the street with their engines running. Mr. Thompson, we need to speak with you and your companion immediately, Agent Rodriguez said, stepping into the apartment without waiting for permission. This is Agent Chen from Homeland Security and Dr. Williams from the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. Zara stood frozen by the couch, her hair now completely silver with fear. The agents noticed immediately. Fascinating, Dr. Williams murmured, pulling out a tablet and taking notes. Emotional chromatic response. We've only seen this in laboratory settings. She's not a lab experiment, David said quickly, moving to stand beside Zara. She's a person. Agent. Rodriguez nodded. We understand that, Mr. Thompson. But she's also an unregistered alien visitor on American soil, which creates significant legal and security concerns. Zara finally found her voice. I have done nothing wrong. I came here through legal galactic commerce channels. That's part of the problem, Agent Chen explained, consulting his own device. Those channels operate outside our normal immigration laws. Technically, you don't exist in our system. Dr. Williams looked up from his tablet. Miss Zara, we need to understand your capabilities and intentions. Our sensors detected unusual energy signatures coming from this building. Are you carrying any advanced technology? Zara glanced at David, who nodded encouragingly. Only my translator and basic medical equipment, she said carefully. Standard items for interplanetary travelers. Medical equipment? Dr. Williams looked very interested. What kind of medical capabilities do you possess? David watched nervously as Zara demonstrated her healing ability on a small cut she made on her own hand. The wound closed instantly, leaving no trace. The agents exchanged significant looks. This changes things, Agent Rodriguez said quietly to her colleagues. Then she turned back to David and Zara. We need to discuss relocation to a secure facility, where we can properly assess the situation. No, David said firmly, surprising himself with his boldness. Zara isn't going anywhere without her consent. Mr. Thompson, this isn't a request, Agent Chen said. National security protocols require— Wait, Zara interrupted, her hair shifting to a deep blue color that David had never seen before. There is something I must tell you. Something I have not shared with David. Everyone in the room focused on her. Zara took a deep breath and continued. I am not just a volunteer from the outer colonies. I am Zara Velandra, former council member of the Andromedian High Assembly. I was exiled from my home planet for opposing our government's aggressive expansion policies. David stared at her in shock. You're royalty? Not royalty, but something similar. My family has served in government for generations. When I spoke out against the war with the Centauri system, I was branded a traitor and sentenced to exile. Dr. Williams was typing furiously on his tablet. This explains some anomalies in our intelligence reports. We've been tracking unusual activity in the Andromeda sector. Zara nodded sadly. My people are planning to expand their territory. Earth is not currently a target, but that could change. I came here partly to escape, but also to warn your people if the need arose. Agent Rodriguez sat down heavily in David's chair. So you're essentially a political refugee with inside knowledge of potential threats to Earth. That's correct. I chose David's planet because my studies suggested humans might be more accepting of outsiders than other species we've encountered. David felt like the ground was shifting under his feet. Why didn't you tell me this before? Zara's eyes filled, with tears that sparkled like liquid starlight. Because I wanted you to care about me for who I am, not what I represent. I have been used for political purposes my entire life. With you, I felt like just Zara for the first time. The emotion in her voice made David's heart ache. Despite the shock of her revelation, he realized his feelings for her hadn't changed. If anything, understanding her sacrifice made him admire her more. This actually works in our favor, Agent Chen said, though his tone remained cautious. A cooperative alien with valuable intelligence could be granted asylum under special circumstances. What would that mean for Zara? David asked. Dr. Williams explained, she would need to work with our intelligence agencies, sharing information about her home planet's capabilities and intentions. In exchange, she'd receive legal protection and residency status. And David? Zara asked quietly. What happens to him in this arrangement? Agent Rodriguez smiled for the first time since arriving. Mr. Thompson would likely be offered a position as a cultural liaison. Someone needs to help bridge the gap between human and Andromedan perspectives. David looked at Zara, who was watching him anxiously. Her hair had shifted to a hopeful golden color. There's something else, Agent Chen added. We've been monitoring galactic commerce activity, and your purchase wasn't as accidental as you thought, Mr. Thompson. The algorithm that matched you, with Zara factored in your psychological profile, your technical skills, and even your geographic location. What does that mean? David asked. It means the universe, or at least a very sophisticated computer system, thought you two would be good for each other, Dr. Williams said with a slight smile. Zara reached for David's hand. So perhaps it truly was meant to be, even if it began as an accident. David squeezed her hand, feeling the slight electric tingle that always accompanied her touch. I guess sometimes the best things happen when we're not trying to make them happen. Agent Rodriguez stood up. We'll need to process paperwork and conduct interviews, but I think we can work out an arrangement that benefits everyone. Ms. Velandra, you'll have protection and purpose. Mr. Thompson, you'll have a unique career, opportunity, and Earth will have an early warning system about potential threats. What about us? David asked, gesturing between himself and Zara. Our relationship? That's entirely up to you two, Agent Rodriguez replied. The government doesn't regulate personal relationships between humans and registered alien residents. After the agents left with promises to return the next day with official paperwork, David and Zara sat together on the couch in stunned silence. Are you angry that I didn't tell you the truth? Zara asked softly. David considered the question carefully. I'm hurt that you didn't trust me with it, but I understand why you were scared. You've been through so much. I was afraid you would see me differently, as a political problem instead of just Zara. David turned to face her fully. Zara, I don't care if you're an exiled politician or a space princess or just someone who volunteered for an adventure. What I care about is that you're kind, funny, brilliant, and you make me want to be a better person." Her hair shifted to a warm pink color, and she smiled through her tears. "Even though our situation is about to become much more complicated?" "Especially because of that," David said, pulling her closer. "I never thought I'd be brave enough for an adventure like this. But with you, I feel like I can handle anything." They held each other. Both of them knew their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't imagine. But for the first time since Zara's arrival, David felt confident they could face whatever came next together. 6 months later, David barely recognized his own life. He sat in a government office that looked like something from a science fiction movie, reviewing intelligence reports about distant planets while Zara worked in the laboratory next door, helping scientists understand Andromedan technology. Their morning routine had become wonderfully normal despite the extraordinary circumstances. Zara would float above their bed for her morning meditation, while David made coffee with the advanced brewing device she'd built from spare parts. It made the best coffee he'd ever tasted, though he still didn't understand how it worked. "The Centauri peace talks are going well," Zara announced as she entered their shared office, her hair a pleased shade of light blue. "My former colleagues finally agreed to negotiate instead of fight." David looked up from his reports with a smile. "That's amazing. Do you think your information helped?" "I believe so. Sometimes the right words from the right person can change everything." She sat on the edge of his desk, a habit that still made his heart race. "Agent Rodriguez says the president wants to meet us next week." "The president?" David nearly choked on his coffee. "Why?" "Apparently, our success in establishing peaceful alien contact has impressed many important people. They want to expand the program and bring more refugees to Earth." David shook his head in amazement. "A year ago, I was fixing computers for angry customers. Now I'm helping establish interplanetary relations. It doesn't feel real sometimes." Zara laughed, the sound still reminding him of wind chimes. "Real is relative. What matters is that we are happy." And they were happy despite the challenges. The first few months had been difficult as they learned to navigate their new roles while building their relationship. There were times when David felt overwhelmed by the responsibility, and moments when Zara struggled with homesickness for her planet. But they'd found strength in each other. David had discovered a talent for understanding alien psychology that amazed his supervisors, while Zara's gentle nature and vast knowledge made her invaluable to the research teams. Their personal relationship had grown stronger through every challenge. They'd had their first real fight about 2 months ago when David worried that Zara was pushing herself too hard to prove her worth. She'd accused him of not trusting her judgment, and for a day, her hair had stayed a stormy gray color that broke his heart. "I do not need you to protect me from everything," she'd said during their argument. "I need you to believe in me." That conversation had taught David to see Zara as his equal partner rather than someone he needed to shelter. She was brilliant, strong, and perfectly capable of making her own decisions. His job was to support her, not control her. Now, their apartment was filled with a mixture of Earth and Andromedan items that somehow worked perfectly together. Zara had painted murals on the walls that seemed to change color with the light, and David had learned to appreciate the way alien technology could make even simple tasks more beautiful. Their friends had taken some time to adjust. Jake, from David's old job, had been shocked when he learned the truth about Zara, but eventually became one of their strongest supporters. He'd even started dating Dr. Lisa Martinez from the research team, joking that David had inspired him to think bigger about his love life. "Speaking of the future," Zara said, pulling a small device from her pocket. "I received a message from home today." David tensed. Communications from Andromeda were rare and usually brought complicated news. "My younger sister wants to apply for the refugee program," Zara continued. "She's been working with the resistance movement and may need to leave the planet soon." "That's wonderful," David said, meaning it. He'd learned so much about Zara's family through their conversations, and he knew how much she missed her sister Lyra. There's more. 3 other families from my world have requested asylum on Earth. If approved, you and I would be responsible for helping them adjust. David grinned. So we'd be like welcome guides for alien refugees? Something like that. Are you interested in expanding our little operation? David stood up and pulled Zara into his arms. With you? I'm interested in any adventure. She kissed him then, her lips tasting slightly of starlight and possibilities. Even after 6 months, David still felt amazed that this incredible woman had chosen to build a life with him. There is one more thing, Zara said when they separated. Agent Rodriguez mentioned that the Galactic Commerce Network wants to offer you a job. Me? What kind of job? Cultural consultant for Earth-alien relations. You would help prevent other accidental orders and ensure that future matches are truly compatible. David laughed. So I'd be helping other people avoid the same mistake I made? Or helping them make the same wonderful mistake, Zara corrected with a smile. The algorithm that matched us has a 97% success rate. Most of the other couples who met through the system are very happy. There are other couples like us? Oh, yes. A teacher in Japan married a crystalline being from the Vega system. A farmer in Brazil is engaged to a shapeshifter from the Pleiades. Love, it seems, is truly universal. That evening, they walked through the city park where they'd had their first real date. Zara no longer had to hide her abilities completely. The government had slowly begun introducing the public to the idea of friendly alien contact, using David and Zara as a positive example. Children would sometimes recognize Zara from the educational videos they'd made, asking her to demonstrate, floating or to see her hair change colors. She was always patient and kind, answering their questions and showing them that different didn't mean scary. Do you ever regret it? David asked as they sat on their favorite bench watching the sunset. Leaving your home planet, giving up your old life? Zara considered the question seriously, as she always did. I regret the circumstances that forced me to leave. I regret not being able to help my people more directly. But I do not regret finding you or building this new life we share. She took his hand, and he felt the familiar tingle of her touch. On Andromeda, my life was planned from birth. Who I would marry, what role I would play, even how I would think about the world. Here with you, I get to choose who I want to be every single day. David squeezed her hand. I love who you choose to be, and I love the man you have become since that accidental order. Braver, more confident, more open to possibilities. As the stars began to appear overhead, David marveled at how much his life had changed. A year ago, he'd been lonely and stuck in a routine that felt meaningless. Now he woke up every day excited about the work they were doing and the life they were building together. Zara, he said suddenly, pulling a small box from his pocket. I know your people don't have the same marriage customs as humans, but I was wondering if you'd like to create some new traditions with me. Her hair shifted to the brilliant gold color that meant pure joy as she saw the ring inside the box. It wasn't a traditional diamond. David had worked with a jeweler to create something unique using a crystal from Zara's home planet that she'd brought with her. David Thompson, she said, her voice filled with wonder. Are you asking me to be your permanent companion in the Earth custom? I'm asking you to be my partner in every way that matters. Here on Earth, on any other planet we might visit for whatever adventures come next. Yes, she said without hesitation. Yes to all of it. To marriage, to adventures, to whatever the universe has planned for us. As David slipped the ring onto her finger, he thought about the chain of events that had brought them together. A moment of loneliness, a careless click, an accidental order that had changed everything. Thank you, he whispered against her ear. For what? For taking a chance on a guy who didn't know what he was ordering? Zara laughed, her hair now cycling through all the colors of happiness. Thank you for being exactly what I didn't know I was looking for. Above them, the stars twinkled like distant possibilities, and David realized that sometimes the best journeys were the ones you never planned to take. Sometimes love found you in the most unexpected packages, delivered by the most unlikely messengers, and sometimes, if you were very lucky, a simple mistake could turn into the greatest adventure of your life.